Welcome to Film in 5D, the show about everything film with the 5D Mark II. I'm your host, Aaron Hammock, and this week we take a look at the newest and most stable version of Magic Lantern firmware yet.
Man, it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah, it's been a month. Not forever. I missed you guys. I missed you.
Oh, thanks.
No, seriously. In fact, from now on you can interrupt me whenever you want.
Oh boy.
We'll have a little more chemistry now. You can be a little more topical and stuff, since we're only doing a tutorial every other week. Alright, we're back from our month-long absence and ready to start featuring some of your channels on our show. This month's featuree is all the way from Sweden. Congratulations to Cinex Studios for being this month's winner. You can now check out their channel at the link below, where you'll find some awesome VFX, short films, and DSLR focused clips. Also, if you liked their content, head on over to their site at www.cinexstudios.se. I was really impressed with their visual effects, especially on such a low budget. Let's take a look at one of their clips. I'm excited to see what channels we'll be featuring in the coming months. If you think you might be interested in some additional exposure, don't forget to send in a tweet by the 21st of this month. Be sure to include the hashtag FilmIn5D, as well as a short description of your channel with a link to your very best video. Just make sure that you own all the content in that video. If you win, I'll also subscribe to your channel and feature you on our front page. The sooner you send in your tweets, the better chance you have of being selected. Just remember, only one tweet per month for consideration, so send them in ASAP. Next, I'm going to show you the newest version of Magic Lantern firmware after a message from our sponsor.
Wait, I thought we canned that.
Canned what?
The whole sponsor thing.
Oh yeah, all our sponsors pulled out. So about a year ago, I did an episode on the Magic Lantern firmware, which is a third-party software that runs alongside the Canon firmware for many DSLRs. But to be honest, since that episode I really didn't use Magic Lantern all that much. For me, it was a bit too unstable and made the camera run very hot, and I ran into problems when shooting outside in the heat at weddings and stuff. Later I found out that I was using a newer version of the firmware that didn't really have all the features yet, and the only way to go back to the original was to downgrade my Canon firmware. Also, I wasn't very optimistic about the direction Magic Lantern was headed towards, since the original developers were moving on to new things and the new ones didn't really seem to be creating the same type of high quality freeware. But this all changed last month with the release of version 2.3, by far the most advanced third-party firmware for video DSLRs to date. Also, it utilizes the newest Canon firmwares, such as 2.1.2 for my Canon 5D Mark II. Now, I talked about some of the features in the previous version in some past episodes, like these two right here. So go check those out, since this episode will mostly focus on addressing the new and improved features, and down the line I will actually utilize them on several episodes. However, I should warn you that this firmware has potential to damage your camera and void the warranty, so install it at your own risk. You'll see that version 2.3 has crop marks, like the old one. This one lets you store up to 9 pre-made crop marks, and if you look in the instructions manual, you'll find presets for you to download. By the way, I'm not sure if this is new or not, but this time around I actually click-drag the entire set of folders onto my Compact Flash, rather than the firmware file alone. This means that you get designated folders for different things, like your set of crop marks for example. They also reintroduced the auto restart, which was missing from the previous version I had, and this one is even faster than I remember.
It literally just happened like 30 seconds ago.
Really?
Yeah, it surprised me.
Dude, now you have like nothing to do back there.
I know, I just sit
got the
back
mic
here.
stand holding your mic.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, like, what are you doing? Running teleprompter? In the test, I found that you only lose 1.8 seconds with the auto restart feature, which is of course awesome for recording live events. Another feature that has been vastly improved is HDR bracketing. HDR being high dynamic range, this can be used for both pictures and video. This is a feature that also comes with the Canon 5D Mark III, but for those of us without $3,500 lying around, we'll have to make do with this firmware. In HDR bracketing mode, your camera will take one picture at 3 different exposures, which you can then combine in post to get the most dynamic range possible. It's kind of like shooting RAW, where you can recover information from the highlights or the shadows in a program like Camera Raw with Photoshop. But the difference is, you can actually retain the shadow and highlight information. Like if you have a picture out on the beach looking towards a dark cave, well, the beach is really bright, but the cave is really dark. If you're using HDR bracketing, you can lighten up the shadows of the cave and still get the details in the sand. Magic Lantern version 2.3 also has the ability to use HDR bracketing for video, but instead intertwining different ISOs for the flattest image possible, giving you the most dynamic range and information in post. But I haven't had the chance to figure out the workflow for this yet, so I'll definitely be doing an episode for it down the road. Now, I talked about using Magic Lantern to adjust the bitrate in a previous episode, but I want to address some new findings. Yes, you can use a low Q scale value to get the maximum 30-minute recording, but doing this will get you more artifacts, which is incredibly difficult to work with on a green screen. I also thought that since you'd be lowering the bitrate to put it online anyway, it wouldn't really matter to lower the Q scale, but I was definitely wrong. In fact, for a time we were using the Q scale -10 to get our green screen recording sessions done in a single take. And while this definitely saved us time in shooting, it took me even more time in post to get my green screen footage keyed correctly. So I wouldn't recommend lowering your Q scale unless you absolutely have to, like for a live event or something. Also, I mentioned previously that I use VBR, variable bitrate. It turns out this setting is incredibly unstable, and while it usually saves you more space, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Instead, just set to CBR, constant bitrate, and adjust the Q scale to your liking. In fact, you can go ahead and bump it up if you have a 90 megabytes per second CF card. This will reduce artifacting in post and give you better composites. The new Magic Lantern has pretty much the same audio features for anyone still recording sound directly onto their DSLR, but one of the most interesting new features for me is the customization of frames per second. In version 2.3, you can now adjust your FPS anywhere from 36 all the way down to 0.1 frames per second. That means that you can easily match pretty much any frame rate used throughout the history of cinema, unless of course you're talking about The Hobbit, which comes out in December. That's being shot at 48 FPS. But anyway, if you push your frame rate really low, like to the 0.1, you can use video capture for time lapses. I'll get more into that down the line. You can also find some features that help with time focus pulls and hits, which will be useful if you have an automated slider setup or if you're using a crane or jib. But my favorite aspect of the new Magic Lantern is the display. It's so much better now. Like in previous versions, I find myself relying on the Canon display, and trust me when I say that using both at the same time is not ideal. This display has pretty much everything you need: audio levels for monitoring, histogram and exposure graphs for getting the most balanced shot, your focal length, which is awesome for me since I use the 24-105 zoom all the time, and now I can more easily set the exact focal length I desire. You'll also see that in the upper right hand corner of the display, it gives you the exact amount of space you have left in gigabytes, plus your frame rate. It also shows your white balance in Kelvin, and obviously your ISO, aperture, and your shutter speed. But the cool thing here is that it actually tells you if your ISO or shutter speed you're using is ideal for noise and motion blur. When it's green, it's good, yellow being meh, and red being bad. Now clearly you can use whatever settings you want for artistic motivation, but this helps you find a great jumping off point. They've also added a feature called Trap Focus, which is something you might find on an external monitor. When using Trap Focus, you'll see a sharpening effect and a higher contrast around the object or subject that is in focus. They've also improved upon the live focus box, which zooms in for focus and also works while recording. But that's pretty much it for this week. If you have any questions, you can send them via @mentions to our page at twitter.com/film15d or post them on our Facebook wall at this link here. And for those of you who don't already know, we're trying to move away from the whole episode every week structure, mainly because we simply don't have the time or the resources to get the quality we want out of our episodes when we're doing them every single week. So instead, we'll be releasing more in-depth tutorials every other week and reviews or creative content the weeks in between. So we'll be back next week with a review on the Yeti Pro USB microphone.
Yeti?
Yeah, from Blue. They make really good mics.
Oh, that's that weird thing you got?
Yeah, it's for voiceovers and stuff. So I figured do a review on it. Plus we're doing ADR the week after.
Oh, really?
So I'm going to use that mic, and I figured why not review it.
That's pretty clever, you know? You like kind of think about when you're structuring these
Integrate
episodes?
it, yeah. We could do it more now because we're not doing an episode every single week. So I have I have 2 weeks where I could set up like really good, make it more topical kind of thing, where they actually like relate to the content of the reviews and all that stuff. Which what we've been doing, but now instead of combining it all, having short versions of everything, we have a long version of everything. We should have probably 2 sketches in October too. Because like Halloween is my favorite time of the year.
Oh yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, we're gonna kick it off with some like scary stuff. So, for sure. See you next week. C-Ray glasses, 4-string, all them.
Mm-hmm.
Apple. PC.
Oh, I'm really sad about that Apple one, man.
Yeah. We'll try to get them back. Maybe we'll just make ones for fun, like in the weeks in between the tutorials.
Sounds like a plan.
This was not scripted. Okay, go.
What the?